Okay, everybody. We're live here. Let me wait and see that everything wakes up because you don't want to have anybody miss anything. It's still thinking. All right, now we're live. Hey, everybody. It's Friday. Today is April 21st. Can you believe it? It's tax week. I hope everybody paid their taxes this week. Or if you didn't, you filed an extension. So this week, I'm Tina-Desiree Berg. This week on Right Wing Insanity Report, my guest is going to be you, the audience. I'd like to have everybody call in, ask questions, share comments, thoughts. I do have some news pieces to share with you in between the time we're taking calls. So if you've got a question, got a comment, call in. Let's put the phone number so people know what to call onto the screen. There it is. 719-STATUS. Status US 1. So it's 719-782-8371. So Colin's going to monitor that. I wanted to start the show, though, talking about something that is going on in Collier Middle School down in Florida, of course. This was sent to us by one of our Status Coup members that wanted to highlight. It's a local story, but I think it should be getting more attention. So let's pull this up. This is Collier Middle School teacher is under investigation for Confederate History Month video. So in a nutshell, basically, this teacher, middle school teacher, created this video. There's a screenshot from it. It says history, not hate. That was pro-Confederacy. They did it without permission of the school district. The school district has said that this is not part of their curriculum, but they shared the video to these elementary, middle school students, and now he's under investigation. All right, so a Collier Middle School teacher is under investigation after showing an unauthorized Confederate History Month video during the morning announcements on April 12th. The Collier County School District would not provide the name of the Manatee Middle School teacher and whether or not the teacher was placed on leave during the investigation. As practice, we do not discuss employee matters during an investigation, district spokesman Chadwick Oliver said in an email. It should be noted that Confederate History Month is not included within Collier County Public Schools curriculum, guides, and instructional materials, the district said in an email statement sent on Monday. This video was neither sanctioned or approved by the district and is no longer accessible. The video, which was created and narrated by a faculty member, was widely shared on TikTok by the account Chasing Oz, which labels themselves as a political commenter from Port Orange. The video currently has, wait for it, 229.8 thousand likes. That's kind of scary. Some of those folks, I'm sure, are just checking it out to see what the situation is, train wreck that it is. So, this is kind of a devastating story if for an elementary school. If it was a high school, I don't think it would be as bad. But these are, younger, more impressionable kids. And if you're apologizing for Confederacy, things like slavery, and trying to, whitewash, and it literally is whitewashing what happened, it's, a bad idea. All right, so is anybody calling in yet? Come on, guys, you're not calling in? Somebody must have a question somewhere. All right, let's go to the next story in the meantime. This one's really bad, too. FBI investigating GOP Oklahoma officials caught on tape talking about, wait for it, lynching black people and murdering newspaper reporters. America. All right, so let's pull up the story, and then we're going to take a look at some of the things that they said in the transcripts. GOP officials from McCurtain County, Oklahoma, are being investigated by the FBI after they were caught on tape expressing their frustration about it not being socially acceptable to beat up and hang black people, as well as their desires to hire hitmen to kill newspaper reporters. The audio was published by print-only newspaper McCurtain Gazette News, so it's not available online, unfortunately. And it released transcript of the recording from a county commissioner's meeting last month to the public that allegedly incriminates several public officials after distributing disturbing comments were made. The full audio recording from Gazette News reporter Bruce Willingham will be released by the newspaper at a later date, so we'll keep our eyes and ears out for that. After hundreds came out in protest, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt has called for the resignation of McCurtain County Sheriff Kevin Clardy, District 2 Commissioner Mark Jennings, investigator Alicia Manning, and jail administrator Larry Hendricks for the comments in the meeting. District 3 Commissioner Robert Beck is also cited in the audio. The transcript suggested that the group first started discussing a recent fire which killed a woman and her two dogs. The group joked about the woman's body parts falling off her body, and that it is similar to eating barbecue. Let's pull up the transcript and read some of that because it's absolutely nuts. Let me click that open. All right, so here's the transcript from the meeting, county commissioners. So the sheriff says, this is the barbecue scenario. Anyway, we wrap it up in tinfoil to preserve the body and stuff like that. And Dot kept them, all the body, heart, stuff like that. Anyway, Kyler was out there. Jennings responds, oh, body parts, she'd come apart. The sheriff says, yeah, some parts of bodies end. Heather cuts in with, they really fell apart when they're burnt? Larry says, yeah, you've never had barbecue? Sheriff, that's another thing. Heather, yeah? Larry, same thing. Beck, I'm hungry. I mean, sure, if you're a cannibal. Sheriff, so we get her in the body bag, and Kyler goes, you do know what we gotta do now, right? Faith goes, no, what? He goes, you gotta preheat the oven 350 degrees, leave her in there for 15 minutes, and she went vomit sounds. She makes vomit sounds on the audio. Bless her heart, it was, and then the medical examiner asked her, said, hey, we're fixing to go eat, and he looked her in the face and said, you want to go with me and go get some barbecue? Big laughter. So that's the least disturbing one. The next one is actually far more disturbing. Racism in county government. So Jennings says, it's like somebody wanting his job. They don't realize like your job. I heard it the other day. Said I heard 2 or 12 people were going for sheriff. I said, fuck, let's get 20. They don't have a goddamn clue what they're getting into. Not this day and age. I'm going to tell you something. If it was back in the day when Ellen Marston would take a damn black guy and whoop their ass and throw them in the cell, I'd run for fucking sheriff. The sheriff responds, well, it's not like that no more. Jennings says, I know, take them down to Mud Creek and hang them with a damn rope. But you can't do that anymore. They got more rights than we got. Absolutely appalling. All right, so let's skip the 2D polls and go down to hiring hitmen. So this is where they're talking about taking out some reporters. Jennings says, but the thing of it is, Manning responds with, we actually told the truth. Jennings, I've known 2 or 3 hitmen. They're very quiet guys. Manning, yeah. Jennings, and would cut no fucking mercy. Manning says, yeah. Jennings responds with, in Louisiana, because this is all mafia around here. Kevin says, oh yeah. Manning responds with, yeah, but here's the reality. If a hair on his wife's head, Chris Wilmingham's head, or any of these of those people that really were behind that, if any hair on their head got touched by anybody, who would be the bad guy? The sheriff says, who would be blamed for it? Manning says, yeah. So basically, this is the sheriff. They're talking about hiring hitmen to kill reporters that did an unflattering piece. And the sheriff is basically saying, yeah, go ahead and kill them. Even though I'm the sheriff, I'm supposed to be law enforcement. That's fine. And who do we blame for it? So we have a combination of incredibly insane racism where they want to still lynch black people and get away with it, and they want to murder reporters. So wanted to bring that atrocious story to your attention. Bad stuff. All right, we've got some people in the queue. So let's go ahead and pull that up. Colin, who we got?
Okay, first up we got or they don't have their name, so but calling about Robert Kennedy, I believe.
Okay, anti-vaxxer Robert Kennedy, I'm assuming.
I assume so. You are now live. It didn't have your name here, so I apologize.
I can. Hey, how are ya? Hey, Chris, how are you? Let's just make sure everybody can hear it on YouTube too, right? Is everybody hearing it?
I'm not hearing it. Give me Yeah, I'm not hearing him.
You're not? YouTube, can you hear Chris? We cannot hear him. Uh-oh. I am the only person that can hear you, Chris. There's something. All right, what do we need to change on there?
I guess just double check your OBS, the desktop audio. If it says default, just click once until the bar is moving up and down.
Hang on, quick. 1 second. 1 second.
She's doing that real quick. Apologies ahead of time, guys, for that. It was working a second ago. Its settings keep getting changed. That's why it took a sec to get started, because we're trying to fix that. Hopefully she's just
Okay,
gonna
the
change.
bar is moving up and down.
Okay, can you talk again? I didn't hear their name.
How is it that I can hear you and nobody else can?
That's strange.
Man.
Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna do.
This is Colin with Colin on the ones and two. It's Chris Garrett that is talking. I can hear Chris Garrett, and apparently you folks can't, and I don't know why, because I'm terrible at tech. You already knew that, though.
What did we do different?
Yeah, I mean, that's okay with me, but hang on. Should something be changed in the actual Colin app? Colin?
No, I I have it open, like the settings, like it. Something's just not being brought over. So I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. Give me 1 sec.
All right, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. Let's just do that. The audio won't be as good, but we want to be able to hear you, Chris, and everybody else. It's one thing to drop something in the chat. It's another thing to have a conversation. Thanks for bearing with us, everybody. This is important stuff. And actually, Chris, I'm going to force you to watch one of my right-wing insanity. I think we're going to... Right on. Okay, so
Tina,
I can hear you. Yeah. I think Colin's just gonna put on the screen.
Yeah. So I think everyone
on any platform. Where it says nobody's hearing me on any platform.
Can you guys hear him now?
Come on, Colin. You can do it, Colin.
Tina has an echo.
Colin's a tech wizard.
I haven't that before. Oh, you can hear him now, but there's an echo. Okay, so we need to shut something else off. That means there's two video or
I'm manually gonna have to. Yeah, I'm just gonna manually stay on top of that.
The echo's not coming from me.
So you're good to go. I'm just gonna.
Okay, so we're getting thumbs up now. So all right, right on. All right, so Chris, where'd you go? Uh-oh, are you there? Okay.
Okay. All right. The topic I wanted to kind of bring up, over the last couple of days, RFK Jr.
Hang on, there's an echo.
No, you're seeing a lagging chat. I'm manually getting rid of that.
Colin.
That's better. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure everybody can understand.
All right. So the topic I wanted to kind of bring up for discussion is that RFK Jr. announced his Democratic candidacy a couple of days ago. It's barely been covered by the corporate media. The most coverage he's received,
I'm getting such a bad echo again. I can't. It's out of sync. Yeah, it is Chris Garrett, Dave. Colin, I can't understand. Colin,
you're getting an echo. No, I'm
getting an echo. I can't hear.
Something. It's not on my end. I haven't done anything.
Okay, so now when you come back on, I can hear Chris fine. If you leave it this way, there's no echo. For some reason, when you make it the other way, it starts to echo. Like right now, I can hear Chris fine.
Okay, I'll just stay on screen. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, just stay on screen. Okay, perfect. I can hear you now.
All right. Yes. So the topic I wanted to bring up for discussion over the last couple of days.
Type that back. It's echoing again. You got.
Okay, here we'll.
Okay,
take
but
a
when you
pause.
just said that's weird, it was fine. All right.
I think it might be.
The topic I wanted to bring up was that over the last couple of days, RFK Jr. made his Democratic announcement to run for president in Boston. But it's hardly been picked up by the corporate media. Interestingly enough, it was picked up by Fox. All the other corporate
you know what?
media.
Hang on, Cheryl's right. Hang on,
Chris?
Yeah.
There's a few seconds delay because your volume is probably on your computer. That's what might be causing it. Cheryl's right, I think.
My computer is muted. I'm just calling through on my cell phone.
Oh, then that's definitely not it.
Bluetooth off. Let's try that.
Okay. Oh my God, that's way better. Yeah. Maybe it was the Bluetooth.
Bluetooth. Okay.
Okay.
So the topic I wanted to just bring up over the last couple of days, RFK Jr.
Actually,
announced.
Take that back and start echoing again.
Oh.
Yeah, like right now it's not echoing, and then when it just starts to do it. I don't know why.
Here, Tina, what we'll do is we'll have you what we'll have to do
maybe should one of the OBS settings be muted? Should they both? Maybe Chris is right. Maybe one of the OBS.
your mic should still be muted on
might be
OBS.
Oh, maybe it's not. Let me check. Okay, hang on. So desktop audio not muted, mic muted. Okay, hold on, guys. Sorry. You know what? That might have been it. They were both on.
Oh.
Chris, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. This again. Okay, so the topic
that
I
is
wanted
better.
to bring up
There is a little echo, but it's not as bad.
So over the last couple of days, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., announced his candidacy for president running under the Democratic Party. He got literally no coverage. All the coverage he got was prefaced with anti-vaxxer, Robert Kennedy has announced his candidacy, on CNN and MSNBC and things like that. The most coverage he got was from Fox and Tucker, which is kind of ridiculous. And even the live stream, the live broadcast, the only one that got it live, what I heard, Kim Iverson was talking with Sabby Sabs, and she was there in Boston because that's her hometown, and she broadcast it, and that's how she got a hold of it. And then I guess the only place you can find the speech is from the Independent, and the audio is kind of iffy, but you can make it out.
Yeah.
The thing, what the kind of the topic that evokes is the fact that the corporate media is really trying to work in concert with their chosen party to elevate and suppress candidates, which is anti-democratic. Apparently, he's got. They did a survey, and he already has 14% of Biden voters, rooting for him. Okay, and almost half of the Democrats interviewed have a favorable opinion of him. So this, to me, this is, more corporate censorship. And now that we've got two challengers to Biden, right, Marianne and Williamson and RFK Jr., I am very worried that we're going to get a repeat of 2016, 2020, where the Democratic Party is basically going to force, a candidate down our throats. Jon Stewart said, he made a comment, I think it was Jon Stewart, what is this? Donald Trump and Joe Biden were the two best candidates that this country could come up with, which is kind of ridiculous. And the reason I'm worried about the rigging from the Democratic Party and also the corporate media in collusion with is that I did after 2016 I bought the book What Happened to Bernie Sanders, which was about the DNC lawsuit from Jared Beck. And this is basically, the DNC is not a Democratic Party, it is a corporation. And in that transcript, their lawyers said that they could go into the back room, smoke cigars, and pick whatever candidate they want. So this whole primary season is all just more distraction, to keep us away from looking at real society issues. So
Right.
Tina, what's your perspective on that?
I think that's a very good analysis,
good.
honestly. So, two things. The DNC and the RNC equally are in the business of one thing, and that's preserving power at all expenses. I don't think they're interested in democracy. I don't think they ever have been, right? I think if our country was to get rid of both parties and have a direct democracy where you got to vote for whoever you wanted regardless, this would be a healthy, good step forward. In particularly, I'm interested in the fact that the Kennedy thing was picked up by Tucker Carlson, and I can't remember who else you said, but not by MSNBC or some of the other left-leaning media outlets. I'd be curious to know, Chris, your thoughts on that. Do you think it's because they view, Kennedy as sort of a Pied Piper candidate where he's just a detriment to the Democratic Party, and that if they promote him, it would be beneficial to whoever their guy ends up being, whether it's DeSantis, Trump, or whoever? I'd be curious to know your thoughts on that. I think that's definitely plausibility. But I think, again, like Marianne Williamson is probably more progressive than he is, and she's not getting any attention either. Happening at the same time, though, is there's a big push in the party that Biden is maybe not suitable to run again, that he is having some health issues. So that's on the table as well. But what are your thoughts on the Tucker thing?
My thoughts on Tucker, obviously, Fox usually is kind of, supportive of the Republican Party. So any type of discord they could sow in, along the Democratic lines, party lines, is probably beneficial to their cause. And it's ironic that that's the only place where you can get a platform. However, what my read on it is that the Democratic Party has already picked who they want, and whether it's Joe or whether they just want Joe to crawl over the finish line and then resign due to health issues and turn it over to Kamala, they've already, to me, the fact that they're not even entertaining any challenges, to me, is saying that they've already made their decision, and now it's just how what gamesmanship they have to do to get to that decision to make it a reality. Which
I think that's very possible. Yeah. I think they probably have. So again, the DNC. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's just say I'm hearing a little echo when you talk, Tina. So it might be on your someone on your side. I do think the DNC. I'm getting, the vibes that the DNC has already picked who they want, but they don't have another, what I'd call a corporate candidate that they could get behind. Okay, so they're going to squash anyone that's outspoken on the left, because the Democratic Party's role in life is to keep leftists from gaining any foothold. Even though they say they're the party of the people, they really don't act that way. And, looking back to 2016, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was almost, she was the DNC chairperson. She couldn't even speak at the convention because she got caught in collusion. But where is she now? She's back she's just as much in power and going after Matt Taibbi. it's to me, it's emblematic of that we have a corporate captured regulations and politicians. It's all captured by the donor, all based on the donors. And I will say one thing about TYT. I think Jank had it right. You've got to get money out of politics, because until you get money out of politics, nothing will change. So,
Jake is right.
Yeah,
Money in politics is the root of all evil. Money in politics is absolutely the root of all evil. Jake is right on that. I think, and you're right, the regulatory capture in media is a thing. We've seen, we talk about often regulatory capture at the FDA, at the CDC, at, the Department of Justice, all of these places, the SEC, obviously, you have ex-banksters going in there and keeping tabs on the people they used to work for. So this is very common, but it's a common across the board. The media conglomerates that we now have are very much driven by profit, and they're very much driven by their corporate advertising. Let me tell you a personal story. My very first job in journalism, I worked for a local news station, and my job, I was in my early 20s, so I was like, woohoo, But my job was basically to go out into the field and do reporting at locations that were paying us ad revenue, right? So it's the idea that I'm presenting this as a news story, but really it's just soft advertising, and it took me a while to figure out that was what was going on. And that was, obviously not what I wanted to do with my life. But I mean, that was in the 90s. That was kind of the beginning of it, right? And then shortly after that is when Fox News was purchased and taken over and made into a right-wing, news organization. But I think, the thing that worries me most about it, Chris, is that media is really, I think, at the core problem of so many of our other problems, right? We talk about right-wing extremism on this show all the time. Well, what are the fundamental factors driving that right-wing extremism? One of them is the income inequality, right, in the country. The Democratic Party has failed to give a left exit to that, right? And so they're leaving this lane open for phony right populism, whatever you want to call that. People are really hurting, right? So that's part and parcel to it. And I think the other problem is that they amplify messages that are probably not the best for Americans to hear ad nauseum all day long, because it gets them clicks and it gets them money, right? It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. There's no commitment to veracity. It's just about making money. And if I say, if I have a host that says outrageous things or supports QAnon conspiracies because it feels good to a good portion of their viewers, there's a detrimental thing that happens with that, right? It gets amplified, it grows, it ends up bringing people further over to the right that might not have gone that far to begin with, right? It just sort of moves the Overton window, and now this feels more comfortable. And gosh, now I've got Nazis doing Sig Heils on the street. No big deal, right? So it's a key problem. I think you're right on that. And then we have some weird troll in here. I'm reading this right now. Go ahead, Chris.
And donors, some of the wealthy donors, their biggest investments are in corporations, so they're going to donate based on what would get to the biggest return for their stock and investment. And this past East Palestine situation, it kind of occurred to me that these corporations. Well, first off, you talked about the regulatory capture and with the CDC and the DOJ. Well, the DOJ has selective indictment, right? They'll go after who they want to, so they use that as a weapon, right? And look the other way where they want to, or where they're influenced to. But then with what I was going to say with the East Palestine situation, and somebody in the chat said, get rid of corporations. Corporations originally were supposed to have a limited life, but now they have a permanent life, and we have a situation with permanent capital, like Blackstone. And to me, something like East Palestine, anytime, since you can't jail a corporation, what you could do is anytime a corporation either harms the public or or commits any crimes, or breaks any laws, I think immediately the corporation should be nationalized, at least on a temporary basis. All of the board members should be summarily dismissed without a golden parachute, and we ought to get folks from the DOJ, et cetera, in there to find out what the real story is, capture the emails and correspondence, and issue and start the prosecutions. Until something like that starts to happen, the corporations are going to continue to grow and grow, get more and more powerful, and they don't really care about abiding by the law, because it's more of an actuarial thing where what's the risk versus benefit. The fines are barely a slap on the hand. So, and that's only if they get caught, right? So from a calculation standpoint, what the heck? What's the worst that could happen? I'll get fined, and I'll still probably make out better in the long run because of what happened. Once you put somebody else out of business, once you've eliminated the competition, and while I'm on a rant, eliminating the competition, whatever happened to the antitrust laws? Banks too big to fail, corporations, that are basic monopolies, and predatory. I just kind of feel that we're just on this track, and you plot this out to the steady state conclusion, and this is how the Hunger Games comes to be, because it's just going to continue to more and more consolidation. I think with the corporate media, the Communications Act that was signed into law by Bill Clinton basically allowed the corporate media to get consolidated from 46 media companies down to about 6. It's tough to buy off 46 media companies, but it's not that hard to buy off 6. And to your point, Tina, they're not going to say anything against potential advertisers, okay? Because that's what they're selling. They're not really selling news. They're selling their commercials. The news is just a way of providing for it. Back when we had when they used to have to, TV stations would have to reapply to renew their FCC license every year. And at that point, news was a public service. News is no longer a public service. It's really just an opportunity to make more ad revenue. So it's a broken system. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
No, it's very broken and it's very detrimental. It's going to be so hard to unwind this mess, right? It's gotten so far askew. There was a time when, journalism was considered a public service. You went into this job not because you wanted to get rich and famous, but because you felt like, it's sort of a moral obligation to provide public service to the common, for the common good, right? That was the point. And now, it's very frustrating for me because the people that are doing actual hardcore investigative journalism are generally the ones that are making less money, right? And they're doing the much harder work. Some of these pieces that come out take, sometimes 6, 7, 8 months worth of investigation to get 3 pages of copy, but it's really important copy, right? And these are folks that are, looking into political corruption, and things of this nature. But this is sort of where the country is at. And it's unfortunate because it's that, revolving thing about power and money. So the more power you get, the more money you're able to make because you rig the economy to be able to extract more wealth. Well, now you've got more money, and having more money is going to enable you to be able to rig the legislative branch a little bit more because you can, buy more congressmen or whatever. You've got more money. So now that goes over up here. Like now I'm able to get more power, and because I have more power, I'm able to get more money. So this is sort of this cycle that we have been in the United States for the last 20 years. There was somebody in the chat a second ago, and I'm glad that you guys didn't unhide the comment because it wasn't a good one, but they're sort of kind of the poster child from what I'm talking about. This is obviously somebody that's been influenced by some very extremist viewpoints, and they're basically saying that kids are being murdered in school, and they're anti-trans obviously, but no, kids are not being murdered in school. This has nothing to do with gender affirming care, but they believe that because they've been told that, and this is the dialogue that they've been fed to, and it gets more and more extreme, and it's really dangerous. But the media is a big part of why this is happening. So if I can do just my little part to unwind that clock a little bit, that'd be good. Chris, are you still there? Because I want to do a right-wing insanity video with you, if you're up for it.
First,
go. Okay.
One thing is one of the reasons I like Status Coup, because Status Coup is covering issues that aren't covered by the corporate media stories. And we need, that's necessary. The key to a healthy democracy is an informed electorate, and the corporate media is standing in that way. And the other thing, Tina, just consider this at some point in the future. You should do a child abuse and pedophilia talk sometime with Graham Elwood and his investigator friend, police investigator from Phoenix. I think that that would be an interesting segment. Yeah, I believe his name is Eric.
Who is that?
Oh, yes, okay.
Maybe that'd be an idea for one of your upcoming sessions. But go ahead with the right-wing insanity.
All right, right on. It is. So, one of the things I've looked at is child pornography and right-wing extremism, whether there's connections. And I'll just say really quickly that it's shocking how many, and by right-wing extremists, I mean right-wing extremists. I'm talking Peckerwoods, neo-Nazis, folks that have doing time in prison for hate crimes and whatnot. I started pulling some of the old, DOJ arrest documents. And I was shocked at how many of these guys actually had ancillary charges for either having child porn on their phones or their laptops, or for other related sex offenses. Like, it was common enough where I'm like, that's wild. Like, and it's not something that's generally talked about because the story is much more clickbaity, right? If they're a neo-Nazi, like Adam Waffen Division guy is arrested for this, that, or the other. But there's definitely something going on there. All right, Colin, let's pick the very first one to do with, off of our right-wing insanity roundup. Let's pick the first one to do with Chris. Let me scroll down here. I forget what the first, Cheryl, this one's for you. This is our hateful Canadian teen.
Happy birthday to you.
She says this kind of video shouldn't be seen as offensive.
I did it because it was funny.
Do you think that's funny to Jewish people whose families died in the Holocaust?
I think if they had a sense of humor, they would find it funny.
That's funny.
Yes.
You know how people died in the Holocaust.
I made that video to guide to another video where I talked about Adolf Hitler and the German side of the story.
Bouchard is angry that when returning from Germany last week, the Canada Border Services Agency detained her at Pearson Airport. She says officers went through her personal diary, then seized her notebooks and laptop.
And they said, "We are investigating you for promotion of hate propaganda."
Let's play a game. Find the Jew. Yay! Okay,
YouTube keeps shutting Bouchard down, but then other people repost her videos, some of which have gained hundreds of thousands of views. She says she developed her views by growing up in the multicultural community of Markham.
And I noticed the differences between the races.
You want to be a white person only letting him white.
Yes, our country should be white.
Nadler's response is pretty straightforward.
Get an education. Grow up.
Bouchard argues it's about freedom of speech, that she should be able to express her opinion even if it goes against popular opinion.
Hitler actually wasn't that bad. He wasn't evil at all.
Well, we have an update for you. The Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs says they do plan on filing a complaint saying if this doesn't constitute hate speech, they don't know what does. And that's something we're going to look at tomorrow. It's a very fine line. We have to have freedom of speech, but you also can't.
Oh, yeah, they are no delay. So give this a second to end before we say anything. But this is like some scary ass shit. Can I just say this is scary ass shit? Is that unprofessional? But when I saw this week, I was like, my hair caught on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chrissy there? How
just
offensive is that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd hate to give it a 10 just because it can even get worse, but it's right up there. I mean, it's pretty offensive. And this is yes, we have free speech, right? But the fact that we're using, these videos are being used to get clicks, to make money, to incite, racism and violence is shameful. That's just, it's beyond imagination that this is what technology, we thought that the internet was going to really free us, and it's actually not. It's helping people turn into tribes, and it's giving outlets for those that are on the fringe to find a place that they feel that they belong, and there's no, and that's acceptance, when it really shouldn't be socially accepted. So. What do you think about that?
Right-wing extremists become more extreme in line because they talk to each other, they're in rooms together, they rile each other up. So you're right, the internet has definitely enabled a lot of what we're seeing today. And what's disturbing to me is this is a young girl. I mean, she looks like maybe she's 16, 17 years old. You have to wonder what her home life is like. Are her parents neo-Nazis maybe? I don't know. And also Germany has very strict laws on this sort of thing. You can't just go around Sig Heiling and wearing swastikas and whatnot. They will prosecute that, as will Poland. So they don't have the same sort of First Amendment free speech ideas in these other countries that we do here in the United States. So wanted to share that, and I'm going to actually transition. I know we've got, we have like 3 people in the queue. I'm going to do really quickly on that note. Chris, also, thank you so much. I'm so happy to talk to you. And I think we should start doing this maybe once a month because it's nice to have the interaction with the audience and get your thoughts on things. Colin, I want to go really quickly as a transitional thing before the next caller to my thing I have here, Twitter turning into Gab. Gab, if you guys don't know what that is this anti-Semitic far-right social media site. If you go onto Gab, it's where all the neo-Nazis share their thoughts freely and whatnot. So let's put up this tweet from Ellen, who is the new safety person that works for Elon Musk at Twitter. I want to bring this to your attention. I also want to mention, while many of you were celebrating yesterday was 420, many of you were smoking some pot, relaxing, sharing some doobies, celebrating marijuana being legalized. Others were celebrating Hitler's birthday. 420 is also Hitler's birthday. So Ellen put this tweet up. Posting pictures of Hitler is not a policy violation. That's where we're at. I mean, I read that and I'm like, I don't even want to know what comes next because it's not going to matter. We took a look at the 90 reports you have filed, and there was a mix of policy violating and non-policy violating content. We'll DM you with more guidance. We definitely appreciate valid reports of violating content. Okay, so the tweets in question, I want to show some of them. They were celebrating Adolf Hitler's birthday. So let's show a couple of those. I don't want to, go nuts with this, but just so folks can see the extremism here. So this first one, I think, is the National Socialist News Service. Yes, this is an actual account. All right, there you go. This one here is like, happy birthday, Adolf. April 20th, the 134th birthday of Adolf Hitler is only a week away. I mean, so this is the stuff that we're looking at. How is this not hate speech? It's crazy stuff here. And also I wanted to mention that, I had my blue check removed yesterday, so I'm cool with that. But now what's happening is we have Nazi accounts that are being verified by Twitter. So let's put up this. I thought this was a really good tweet about this. So racial consciousness. This is a neo-Nazi account that's been verified. That is his post. This day in 1989. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's go to the next caller. Thank you, Pat. Chris. Sorry, having a brain fart. So anyway, you guys get the point. This is what's going on. This is how hate gets normalized, right? This is Twitter. This is supposed to be this, run-of-the-mill social media site. That is, obviously Elon has no problem with this sort of thing. This is what's happening. All right, Colin, who do we have next? This is so much fun.
Okay, next up we got Cheryl moving to the room now.
Oh, yay. Our Canadian.
Oh.
So Cheryl, there you are, right off the top. Do you own or disown that Canadian?
I am Canadian, so I own it. The unfortunate part is about the whole thing about the Nazi story. That's the first I've seen it, actually. But I wanted to put out there that there's a new law that's been put in the Canadian books. It's called Curious Law. And essentially what it is a law about corrosion and violence. And I'll post it for you so you can read it if you want. Basically what it is.
So corrosion is that against right-wing extremism or any kind of extremism or hate speech or?
Basically, it's about the domestic violence that's going on in Canada. It's about the fact that this woman's husband in the article had been very abusive with her. She had gone through extenuating circumstances with the ex-husband, and so for some reason, he and the child ended up dead together. So what happened was she had gone through the courts and eventually got a restraining order and all that kind of stuff, but then they eventually ended up dead. So they had to change the law to address the fact that there is coercion in domestic violence. And basically what it amounts to is that the child is then put in the place of being in the middle between the husband and the wife, and essentially is put into, having to speak for one for the other, all that kind of stuff. And essentially that is coercion. And what happens is that the children don't get the support that they get from schools. They don't get the support from any kind of counseling sessions, and they're left in the wind with having to, deal with it themselves. So they have created this law to protect children, and judges need to be addressed to this issue. They need to have some training to look at domestic violence that is going on. And I think that it's about time that Canada and the U.S. had looked at this, because it's what's happening with all the Nazism is eroding that family, and is eroding the fiber of the United States and in Canada. So we need to start looking at, well, what is coercion? And we need to look at why are children now being affected by how our attitudes are rubbing off on them, and how is that implicating their lives and down the road? What's going to happen in 20 years, sort of thing. And, what you've done, Tina, is show a big red flag. And I appreciate that you're showing Canada and U.S. the flag. So thank you very much for that.
So I'm, is this the Kiera's Law? I'm looking this up as you're talking about it. C-233 Kiera's Law, introduced by Anju Dillon, Member of Parliament for Dorval, Lachine, LaSalle. Is that the correct one? Yeah, interesting. So the legislation focuses on protection for children of abusive ex-partners via amendments to the Judges Act. It adds continuous education for decision makers on the finer points of violence and control in family relationships. And additionally, justices are now expected to consider whether a release order for an accused is in the interest of the safety and security electronic monitoring devices can now be a condition of release. Do you think this bill's an overall good or bad thing then? It sounds like there's a little bit of both. Oh my God.
Is that people are literally dying because of the fact that there's no real laws. But now that there is this law, that might help people like the Sarahs and the Kiras of the world.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, indeed.
I feel like it's, I think we're at least progressing as far as how we view these social issues, right? 20, 30 years ago, little consideration was given to, victims, how victims are treated, what we do to help victims. And now I feel that's much more centered than it used to be, which is a good thing.
Years ago, we didn't have 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have the whole Nazi story coming out so abruptly. And we didn't talk in those terms. Nowadays, it's becoming commonplace, and that's a sad reality. And I think it's time that U.S. and Canada took a breath and started thinking about what is coercion, how is it harming our kids, how is it affecting their educational rights, how is it affecting their trans rights. Trans are, there's a petition in Canada now that if trans want to come to Canada and get away from this being persecuted, they can come to Canada through asylum and get free from the especially the bullshit that's happening down there. So there is a lot that Canada has been going through. So a lot of growth, I think.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. There's the delay. Sometimes I'm agreeing with you, and I didn't mean to cut you off. Awesome. Do you want to do a video, a right-wing insanity video with me?
Sure.
Since I gave the Canadian, all right, I gave the Canadian one away. Let's do this one. So this is a clip of Elon Musk on Tucker Carlson. What could possibly go wrong there?
Yeah. A lot of people ask me, where are the aliens? And I think if anyone would know about aliens on Earth, it would probably be me.
I would think.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with space stuff. And I've seen no evidence of aliens. So I would immediately tweet it out. This says split second. That'll be like one all time, probably the top tweet of all time. I found one, guys. It's a jackpot. There's some 8 billion likes. Next level jackpot if you find the aliens.
All right, so Musk thinks that he's an expert on aliens. Let's start with that. Apparently, if anybody on this planet, not the physicist, not the astrophysicist, not the scientist, not the NASA guys, it's Musk. He would know if we had aliens. And then, of course, if he tweets it out, it's going to have 8,000 billion likes, and he'd be the star of Twitter. Any thoughts on that one? It's crazy. It's crazy.
From my point of view, he had crashed his robot yesterday. So what else can you say? As far as Tucker is concerned, I don't want it.
Cheryl, that's right. He crashed, the SpaceX crashed, and then didn't they frame it as like something other than a crash? I can't remember what it was. It was trending on Twitter, and it was kind of funny. It was like in retrospect, we meant to do that. This was actually a success. We completely destroyed billions of dollars worth of equipment, and it was good. Yeah, it was kind of funny. Anyway, all right, Cheryl, so nice to talk with you. Thanks for ringing in. And we will do this again, and I hope to talk to you again.
Thank
All
you.
right.
All right.
So we have,
hang
on. 4 more people. All right. So let's, instead of going to another story, let's just go to another caller, Colin. Also, can I ask you, Colin, at one point, there was less echo. I don't know what you did differently, and it was easier to hear. And then the echo came back, so I don't know if that's helpful.
I'm not entirely sure what would have done that, but I'm just doing my manual muting and unmuting. Oops. But yeah, I'll pull up the next person. All right, aggravated progressive is on.
Yay! All right, aggravated. It's Tina Tanium here. Where you at, aggravated?
Back to call.
To
I'm trying.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Tina, I absolutely love you and Status Coup. And I don't have much, but I'm glad to support.
There's a weird... Colin, the echo got worse again. I don't know why. Are you there?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Colin to work his
Oh,
magic.
you are? Okay.
You are okay.
Is the echo still there?
It's like bad when it was with Chris. Maybe it's something not muted on their end or something. I don't know. That's better.
Okay, and I'll continue on.
Yes, that's way better. Perfect.
All
Yes,
right.
that is better.
Fantastic. I'm calling to see if there's a way we can boost Status Coup in the algorithm. I've noticed when I'm on live chat, if someone donates above $4.99, I can X out and then go back to live chat, and there's a little money symbol on my app on my phone that will blink 4 times, and I can keep doing that for a period of time. And I think that may be a like, and so I always do that when someone donates, hoping it'll boost the algorithm. And if anybody else would like to do that, I would like to see if we can boost Status Coup a bit to get it over the suppression.
You know, the algorithm is very frustrating.
You love y'all, and go Status community.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the echo's worse. I did get that about the algorithm. I think I'm probably echoing back to you. I don't know if folks have to like mute something on their end and it comes through again. I don't know. I'm not a tech person. But, you know, the algorithm is incredibly frustrating. And I noticed changed just honestly over the last year and a half. And I think some of it has to do with just really by virtue of some of the stuff that we're reporting on, right? So YouTube dislikes... And, you know, Colin actually can come in here and chime on some of this because he's been on calls with some of these guys. But there's certain subjects that they dislike, right? So if I'm here today, if I mention stuffs about Nazis, right? YouTube can't differentiate the difference between us discussing the news and this is what's going on in the world, this is what we're paying attention to, this is why it's bad, versus somebody that's actually a Nazi posting a video like the girl from Canada that we were just talking about. It just sort of treats those two things, even though they're very much different, as the same. So there's something to that. But I remember, you know, when I first started doing live streaming with Status Coup, like, gosh, I want to say 3 years ago now. I can't believe it's been 3 years. You know, Colin, you'll remember this. We would sometimes have 500, 600 easy when we were covering right-wing extremism topics. But that's changed. But we decided that we are going to keep doing what we're doing because we can't really cater entirely to an algorithm and do our jobs effectively. And I think the job is more important than anything else. So hopefully eventually by virtue of that, the organic, you know, stuff takes over, right? So I think our core group of supporters get that. And we appreciate you guys. You are the ones that allow us to travel, to the country. Jordan's going on his toxic tour next week, so he's going to be in Flint for the anniversary there, traveling down, I think, to Kansas. I think, Colin, you can chime in there. Let me know. I forget what the whole route is. But again, this, stuff costs money, and it's important to cover it. We're going to keep doing it. And we just appreciate you guys supporting us through thick and thin.
Yeah, the reporting trip she's talking about, is our toxic tour, where we'll be going to Flint, Michigan first for the 9-year anniversary. And then we'll be going to Kalamazoo, Michigan to cover the water poisoning there. And then we're going to finish off, me and Lewis will be in East Palestine with updates, talking to citizens, and some other stuff we'll be looking at there as well. So, it'll be starting this Monday through the following week as well. So make sure you guys, have the bell on so you know when we go live, but also you support it at statuscoup.com/join.
All right, right on. Thanks, Aggravated. Sorry the audio wasn't better. We'll do some troubleshooting. I think we can call StreamYard and see. They can maybe give us some pointers as to what's causing that with some of you folks. But thanks for your time, Tina-Tanium. That's my new name, and you gave it to me. All right, Colin, who do we have next?
All right, this is the last one we have here. That other one is just me.
Oh, right.
We have Ariana, okay. And you are on.
Oh, Ariana! Woohoo! Hey, Ariana, how are you?
Hopefully we don't have
feedback on you.
Oh yeah, I hope so. So you can hear me well?
A little bit, but I can understand. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm just on my phone.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, so
Okay.
I wanted to ask about the youth vote. So I'm 23, and people like my age and younger are getting more political as things get worse and worse. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about that, and also how important voting really is, because there's a lot of young people that are just like, voting doesn't matter. It's all going to go to shit anyway, so why try? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that is a great question, and I'm so glad that you asked it, because your generation has been, let's be honest, your generation has been given the wrong end of the stick. They're in so many ways. You can't afford college. You can't get paid enough to, actually pay rent and buy food. I mean, the fact that wages have been stagnated in this country for 40 years while the cost of goods, inflation has escalated, 9 times that is crazy to me. And that is the world you're living in. When I was your age, I went to UC school, and my tuition was, $900 a quarter, $400, then $900. They started raising it, but it was nothing like it is now. My rent was, want to say like $700 a month, and I had a roommate, and I had a part-time job that paid me $16 an hour. $16 an hour is like not even what minimum wage is right now. Think about that for a second. So I bring this up because there are reasons that Zoomers and whatnot, millennials even, are disenfranchised. There are reasons why they're choosing not to participate in electoral politics. They think I've tried to vote and my vote didn't mean anything. I got thwarted. I got told I was stupid. I got told I needed to start adulting, my favorite word. You need to adult, right? So there are reasons to feel that way. But here's the bright spot. The biggest block of voters out there are the non-voters. So any candidate that can find a way to tap into that will be successful, I think. But the question is how do you go about that? Now, granted, that is tangential to the things that the DNC want to do to, thwart any sort of progressive candidate. All that stuff absolutely still exists and is absolutely a huge problem. But I do think that there are numbers there that do exist that could work to overcome that. The question is how do you motivate these voters? And I think the only way to do it is with a really stellar candidate. It has to be a Bernie Sanders level guy, right? Somebody that's not politically bought, somebody that understands the problems in the country, somebody that can be appealing, to young voters in ways that most of our Democratic officials are not. Right. I think she's not a Bernie, but she's definitely closer to that. So the other thing I would point out that I think is even more important that doesn't get discussed at all is primary elections. And I'm not talking about presidential primary elections. I'm talking about local primary elections for your state Senate, even for your Congress, right? we lose so many great primary candidates because they're not well funded. They don't have the money to be sending out mailers. They don't have money to do calling and all the things that you would need to do to get elected in this country, because it really is driven by money in politics. So many of these primary candidates they lose their primary, and they would be much better choices for these elected positions than what we have now. So I would implore young voters to start looking at primary elections instead of ignoring them. Our participation rate in primary elections is really low. I mean, crazy low. And if that changed, I think it could help to make a difference.
Right. Yeah, and I think TikTok can be a really good vehicle for that, especially for young voters. But I think there's also this other electorate that doesn't want to vote, that is like, they're really into conspiracy theories, and their reasoning is, you know, similar to young people's reasoning, but there's another level where they're just like almost there in kind of figuring out what's really going on, but not quite.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be really hard to, you know, convince them to engage politically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're not wrong. I also think it needs to be pointed out that there has been a lot of work done at the state level in various, states, not just California, here as well, but other states as well, where you have progressive activists, really I'm going to call them activists, that have run for really key offices inside the party. So this is like central committee members, state chairs, whatnot. Some of those are appointed, some of them are not. It depends on what state you're in. But a lot of these internal party positions, right, have been co-opted by progressive candidates, or then appointed by progressive candidates that won their seat, right? So that's helping to change the inner workings of the DNC, and I think that needs to happen. The way the DNC does business needs to change. That is key to letting somebody like Bernie Sanders run again and not have a problem, or not face, what he did in 2016. So that takes time. It's unfortunate that progress in that direction is really slow. It's unfortunate, but it seems to be the case. Whereas the other way, it seems to happen much faster when you have your rights and whatnot taken away from you, right? But we can't just throw our hands up in the air and give up, right? As a country, I'm not ready to do that. I think we all have our different roles to play. I think activists that go out and do grassroots things have a place. I think folks that run for office and really want to change things that way have a place. I think all of these things work in partnership. And I think it's just key that we find ways to stay motivated, right? As opposed to just like tuning out of the whole thing and going 420, yo. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Which is a thing. But let's talk about that for a second. You're making a good point, right? So why, I'm always like wanting to understand, why are they doing alt-right? Why is that happening? We would be stupid if we didn't acknowledge the fact that there is a group of voters out there that did support Bernie Sanders and that ended up becoming alt-right lunatics. Like, this is the thing. That's not a crazy statement I just made. It's a thing. And I think we have to understand how and why that happened if we want to, make things better in the country. And I keep going back to the same thing that I mentioned earlier with Chris. The Democratic Party didn't provide a left exit to the income inequality. They didn't, right? They said, no, we're going to keep giving you, corporate-owned bankster candidates that we feel comfortable with, that our donors feel comfortable with. But these are also candidates that most progressives and young folks look at and say, yeah, that person's not going to fix what's wrong here. They don't care about my plight. They don't want to do anything about making my life better. That's the message they send, right? So they tune out, and then somehow they get, caught up in these other things. And now instead of blaming the corporations for being the bad guys, right? The reason I can't get a decent salary is because of the regulatory capture. It's because of corporations, buying Congress and, having Congress regulate the way they want to, right? Instead of the corporations being the bad guy, now it becomes the Jewish folks are the bad guys, the black folks are the bad guys, the brown folks, the trans folks, these are the bad guys. They're the reason you can't get a fair shake, right? If only the country was, you know, a white nationalist country, we'd be fine. You know, and we all know that's not true. It's fundamentally flawed. Trump is a billionaire. He's part of the plutonymy. He was never going to make decisions based on the idea that income inequality was a bad thing. That was never going to happen, right? But people desperately needed to hear that message that it was going to change. They weren't hearing it from the Democrats, so they turned away. I don't... it's so frustrating to me because I don't know how to whole hog fix this mess. It's easy to diagnose these problems, right? If you look at them, you can see them, right? But I think it's just everybody has a space to do that, right? Whether it's you're in electoral politics or you're doing activism, journalism, whatever, we all have our lanes that we're in. And I think we just can't give up on the idea. You know, there was, I go back to this speech that I heard this board of supervisor made one time. And she's an Asian gal, and somebody had asked her about, you know, white supremacy and whatnot. And I thought her answer was kind of interesting and smart, and it kind of appealed to me on super levels because I'm still a very hopeful person. Like Ron and I have different like takes that are unified in the sense that we see the problems, but he's more like yeah, and I'm like no, we have to have hope, right? But she said something about her dad had a and her dad, I think, had been in an internment camp, a Japanese internment camp. So she asked her father why he would have an American flag hanging up in the house. Like, why? This is what they did to you. We still live in, you know, under white supremacy. Why would you have this flag here? And she said his response was, make something of it. And you know, that kind of was like, huh, you know, he's got a point. I mean, we all know that this country was created out of white supremacy, that all men created equal meant only white male property owners, right? We know all of these things. However, the ideals that are still embodied in that, right, aren't that at all. All men are created equal is a beautiful sentiment, and we'd like to at some point reach a place where that was really the case. So I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I don't know. I know some folks are probably tuned out to that going, yeah, it's never going to happen. Come on, wake up. I get it. And I totally get why people feel that way. I do. I see it. I have moments where I feel that way too, but I'm also not ready to throw in the towel.
Yeah, I think if we're going to do anything at all, then we should definitely save our world from climate destruction. And I think giving up is just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of too easy in a way. But I totally get it. But I've never really felt like that. I've always just been hopeful for change and dreaming and all that. Like people in my generation.
Yeah. All right, so are you going to do a right-wing insanity video with me? I'm picking one now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Actually, we're going to do two to get caught up here. All right, so Colin, let's do the Ann Vandersteel one because this is wild. I'm just going to have you play it and not comment yet.
I decided to become an American state national. Joe, you've heard me talk about this a little bit on the Health and Freedom Tour, but I decided that the 14th Amendment citizenship, the federal citizenship of a bankrupt corporate entity known as the United States. You know, there's a lot of things people may or may not understand. That some people have heard about the Act of 1871 and all this stuff. The truth of the matter is there is a United States, and the federal government is part of a municipal, a corporate entity that was part of Washington, D.C., that was only supposed to be Washington, D.C., 10 square miles. But the 14th Amendment basically hijacked all of the state's sovereignty and made anybody who opted into Social Security a 14th Amendment federal citizen. Therefore, you've exchanged your God-given rights, your Bill of Rights, and you've exchanged them for government privileges, the privilege to get welfare, the privilege to get student loans, to get Social Security, to get health care, all this stuff that our Constitution...
So you don't have to pay Social Security? You don't have to pay Social Security anymore? You don't have to pay FICA?
I don't have to pay Social Security. I don't have to pay into it anymore. I don't have to pay income taxes, personal income taxes anymore because... Can
you get all your money out that you put in?
Yes, you can.
I put a lot of money in.
Yeah.
I put a lot of money into the system over the last 25 years.
Yes, you can, Joe. Yes, you can. You get anything you put in, you get out. You get out.
Fascinating. Can you still run for office?
Yeah, you can absolutely still run for office. In fact, you can still vote. You vote as a delegate, which has the power of 4 votes.
Okay, I have to laugh at the last thing because, all right, she's talking about becoming a sovereign citizen. But before I get into what that is, can we have a moment to recognize how absolutely appalling it is the way she's discussing the 14th Amendment? The 14th Amendment is Reconstruction. It's giving rights to the slaves and making them free people. And she's framing this about paying taxes and not having or getting like all of these things that she's naming, right, have nothing to fucking do with the 14th Amendment at the end of the day. I'm also wanted to mention that this has been a pipe dream for a lot of extremists on the right for a long time. There's a guy named John Tanton. He was a guy that believed in eugenics, but he is FAIR, which is the anti-immigration. That's something he started. He was a total Nazi, let's be honest. But one of the things that he wrote about in his papers that were that you got through a FOIA that came out through the university was that he wanted to overturn the 14th Amendment. Like, so this is something that they've been sort of glomming onto for a long time, but they don't want to actually say the reason why. The reason why is because they're white nationalists. They want to make the country white. They want to expel brown and black folks. It's not just immigration, right? Not just illegal immigration or immigration. They are that extreme, but they know if they come out and actually say it that way, that they'll offend lots and lots of people that they want to get sucked into believing what they believe. So that's the 14th part. The other part she's talking about is being a sovereign citizen. This is a group of Americans that think they don't have to pay taxes. They declare themselves, sovereign in the ways that she described. And no, you don't get 4 votes if you're a delegate. And yes, you still have to pay taxes. If you don't, the IRS will be knocking on your door. What are your thoughts?
It's really touches on the idea of like how using racism and white supremacy as a way to discipline and oppress the poor white people, so that they say, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous, but how they say, like, black people have more rights, therefore they can take your job and have more money. And it's like, well, at least you're not black in terms of the white perspective. And so I think a lot of it is touching on that fear of, losing their job or the fact that they have such low wages, and kind of moving away from the idea that it's the corporation's fault to it's black people, it's brown people, it's trans people, and all the rest.
Yeah, no, I co-sign. I agree with that. It's a tactic that they use. It is very effective, unfortunately, because we see that happening now, right? We see this, the numbers increasing of folks that are buying into this dialogue. But still, every time I see one of these videos, and they seem to be coming fast and furious. There's more of them growing by the day. All these new, right-wing talk show hosts are popping up and making these videos. I just, it's really disturbing to think that in 2023, we're having these conversations that we thought we were done having 20 years ago. It's like, what the hell, man? Come on, America.
I mean, I think it all comes down to people are just getting duped by the elites, and that's something that they can't really face. And it's really hard.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's do one more. So this is a guy named Sean Foyt, who I've actually covered because he's come to Los Angeles a few times. He's the guy, if everybody remembers, did the Disney protests about the, Don't Say Gay bill. He also went down into Skid Row in the middle of COVID and was preaching to homeless folks, had a band that they started playing really loud music in the middle of the street at like 10 o'clock at night. These homeless folks, that's their living room, right? They're trying to sleep in their tents. And this guy's out there, doing gospel music at 10 o'clock at night. But he is definitely a Christian nationalist. He's very extreme in his viewpoints. Let's go ahead and play this clip and we'll talk about it.
That's why we get called. Well, you're Christian nationalists. You want the kingdom to be the government. Yes. You want God to come and overtake the government? Yes. You want Christians to be the only ones that, yes, we do. We wouldn't be a disciple of Jesus if we didn't believe that. We want God to be in control of everything. We want believers to be the ones writing the laws. Yes, guilty as charged.
So, yeah, guilty as charged. So this guy's basically admitting, he's saying the quiet part out loud, I think. We want, Christian law to be the law of the land. Uh-oh, did I lose you?
I just want to say, he said he wants God to control, America or whatever. But I really feel like it's just the elite. Like, you can just replace God with the elite, and you can see just how nefarious it really is. It's not really about Christianity to me. It's just about authoritarianism and control and, power.
That is a very interesting and truthful point I think you're making. A lot of these folks, they find ways to couch their arguments that are going to appeal to a certain sect of the population, right? So, but you're right, replace God with elites, and that's really what this is about, right? It's a power grab of the very wealthy in the country, because a lot of these guys are receiving funding, dark money, right-wing dark money from Koch brothers and other, billionaires that are extreme right-wing libertarians that want to be able to extract more wealth from the country. So, yeah. I think that's definitely true. Thank you, Ariana. I'm so glad that you could call in and talk to us. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. You guys are always in the chat. Oopsie. All right. So Colin, do we have another person or no?
That was all.
Oh, okay, cool. So before, how long have we been going? Do we have time to do the Proud Boy story, or is it like you have to go? I don't know how long we've been going.
We're at an hour 20.
So 5 minutes for the Proud Boy story, and then some super chats. Is that okay? I know you've got to go take your dogs out.
Yeah, no.
All right, right on. So I just. All right, cool. I'm going to do this really quickly. We haven't done a J6 update on the show for a while now, and there's some movement. These trials are still going on. They're still happening. So I wanted to pull up this Washington Post. This is a paywall story, but we are gifting it to you today on the show so you can see it. So Proud Boys defense wobbles in sedition trial after two take the stand. So this is an unusual choice. These Proud Boys are actually getting on the stand to defend themselves, but they are also opening themselves up to lines of questioning from the prosecution that they normally would not be doing. So I think it's a risky move. For whatever reason, I suppose that their attorneys felt this was the way to go. So let's get to the article. Days before jurors begin deliberating on whether to hold 5 leaders in the far-right Proud Boys group responsible for violence on January 6, 2021, at the U.S. Capitol, the panel in D.C. federal court saw 2 videos for the first time. One showed a black woman being knocked to the ground by a Proud Boy during a November 2020 pro-Trump protest in D.C. The other was less clear, but prosecutors told the jury it showed defendant Zachary Real pepper spraying police officers in the middle of the January 6 riot. Neither was introduced during prosecutors' 8-week presentation to the jury. Instead, the government played them only after Real took the stand in his own defense. So this is what I'm getting at. He took the stand in his defense, and these 2 videos that were previously not admissible as evidence became admissible because of that. So those videos are part of a mountain of unflattering evidence that prosecutors have used to take fresh shots at the group's leaders after 2 co-defendants took the risky step to testify, reinforcing the government's contention that the men engaged in seditious conspiracy to violently thwart the 2020 presidential election results. Federal defendants rarely testify at trial, knowing skilled cross-examiners will draw out testimony highlighting their worst behavior. Often defendants put on no case at all. But the Proud Boys promised through attorneys that they would show jurors the truth about January 6, while asserting the government offered a misleading view. You will see from witness after defense witness that these individuals did not see anyone planning to storm the Capitol, despite being in close proximity to them in the days around January 6. Nicholas Smith, representing Ethan Nordine, said in an opening statement. That's just a crazy statement to me because there's tons of evidence showing otherwise. I mean, they were talking about it in their chat rooms. But under government cross-examination, the Proud Boys' witnesses have been made to appear evasive and unreliable, potentially undermining defendants' attempts to sway jurors from prosecutors' theory of the case. More Proud Boys members testify for the defense than for the government, including one who has pleaded guilty to a crime and another who on January 6th was an FBI informant. As Smith promised, all of them have said they heard nothing about stopping the vote count or otherwise blocking Joe Biden from taking office. The testimony was not contradicted by two Proud Boys testifying for the government who told jurors the group had a shared goal but no specific plan. Well, I think the shared goal was that Joe Biden wasn't elected. But defense witnesses went further, hoping to counter what Real dismissively referred to as a state of mind. To prove a seditious conspiracy, prosecutors must show the defendants had plans to use violence to oppose federal authority or to keep President Donald Trump in power. Rell and others insisted on the stand that the Proud Boys tried to avoid violence and did not want to stop the political process. Let me scroll down here. Okay, political violence in the streets is actually an unintended consequence when temperatures get too high, Rell testified. 99% of the time, there's no violence. This is not true. So this is my personal take on this. They have as part of their entry committing acts of violence, right? So you have, when you become a Proud Boy, you have 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, right? So you have degrees, and each one of those degrees requires that you do something. So at any given point, you're going to be required to beat up an anti-fascist or a BLM supporter, right? That's part of it. Like, you have to use physical violence to get that degree. So this idea that these guys aren't intentionally engaging in political violence is ridiculous. And, I've seen them firsthand attack people. So this is just nuts. All right. The government was allowed to rebuke that choir boy image, as one prosecutor called it, with more evidence that the Proud Boys celebrated violence. Yeah, exactly. Longtime Proud Boys chairman Henry Enrique Tarrio, Joseph Biggs, and Dominic Pizzola are also on trial with Rael and Nordine. Their attorneys complained that U.S. District Judge Timothy J. Kelly gave prosecutors too much leeway to show jurors inflammatory comments made in group chats by anonymous members. The defense has also expressed frustration at the sheer amount of material prosecutors can draw from, tens of thousands of texts and videos, with more added mid-trial. Well, here's the thing. The fact that they can draw from that they exist is the problem. It's not that they can draw from it, it's that they exist, right? So this stuff is out there in the world, and anybody that's been covering this group for the last few years is like, you kidding me? The political violence, it's very much real. Here's like gigabytes of it. So we'll see what happens. This isn't the end of the trial yet, but the fact that they took the stand in their own defense, I thought was an interesting choice. I'm not sure that it was the right one, but obviously that's not my decision to be made. They obviously thought there was some benefit to it, but I think it backfired a little bit. I will keep my eye on that, and we'll keep you guys updated as that progresses, but I did want to give an update on the January 6th trials. So that is our show today. I know Colin has to get going here. I want to thank everybody that called in. That was great to have these live conversations. But before I go, hey, Colin, is there any super chats we need to put on the screen real quick, though? Yes, there is. Susan Parker, thank you so much. We appreciate that. A super sticker. I appreciate that, Susan. That's it. We're good?
Yeah,
all right,
that was
so we don't have another... Right on. So appreciate that, Susan. Thank you to everybody that called in and participated in the show today. This was our first time using this call-in app. We'll get some of the kinks worked out because I would actually like to start doing this more often. I think it's great to have the interaction with you folks. And it's Friday night, so go out, relax, have a good Friday night, and have a great weekend.